I've got a logo design that I've made, but there's one crucial thing every logo designer should do. So head up to Window and then open up the Actions panel. Okay, cool, so now create a new action and call it something like Scale Test. And once you hit record, you're now recording every single action that we do in Illustrator. And I'm going to duplicate my logo with the Alt Option key, and then use the Scale tool to bring down the scale to 75% of the original. You just hit enter when you have the Scale tool. And I'm going to keep doing this several more times, all while Illustrator is recording my process over in the Actions panel. We want to do this as a logo designer because even if our logo looks really neat and it does actually apply to the brief, it may not perform well at small scales or sometimes even at large scales. Okay, so once you're finished, just click Stop in the Actions panel. Now you have yourself a very quick way to scale test any logo design. You just highlight your design and then you click play here and boom, scaled designs really fast. And of course, this does work on pretty much anything in Adobe Illustrator. When asymmetry is done well, an asymmetrical logo can actually feel more organic, more alive. If you consider a logo for an organic product, you might want to opt for a design that isn't symmetrical. You can envision that logo on the packaging. It might very well feel more personal, more genuine to the consumer if it's not symmetrical. And so if your client's brand is about emotion, creativity, or humanity, you might try disrupting the symmetry just a little bit. Or, well, a lot. It depends on your brief, of course. Let us talk directly about AI for a second. Now here's an uncomfortable truth. Most of your clients already know they can generate logos themselves using AI. They have seen Midjourney, they've seen DALL-E, Firefly, all of it. So if the only thing you offer is, I will make you a cool looking symbol, then yeah, you are competing with a 20-second prompt, and that is not a fight you want to take on as a designer. But AI has some built-in blind spots at the moment. It does not do strategy. It does not understand the relevant psychology of your client's specific audience unless humans feed it into the actual process. It does not have restraint. It will happily keep adding and refining and decorating until the soul of the idea or the concept is just simply gone, vanished. It does not understand real market fit or how a logo is going to fit into a context of a crowded niche. It just solves kind of like pretty picture or pretty design. So your edge is thinking, not just using tools. And in 2026, you win by doing things AI does not do very well. You understand the tribe of your client, the industry, the culture. You know when to say, no, this is just too much. Or this might look cool, but it sends the wrong signal, the wrong message, the wrong vibe. You know that a shield shape for a playful toy brand makes no sense, or that a hyper-aggressive sports mark for a financial planner might scare clients away. That doesn't mean you should be ignoring AI completely. You can use it as a sketchbook, as research, as concept creation. Ask it to show you 20 ways a shield could actually feel softer, or how a V shape could suggest speed without literally drawing wings. You need to have these ideas beforehand and then use the AI as a tool for kind of direction purposes. Let it give you the raw material, then turn it off and design like a human with a brain with a sense of responsibility. If you hand the entire job over to AI, you become the middleman, the middlewoman with no value. And if you use AI to extend your thinking, you become very hard to replace. And that really comes to life when you start thinking properly about audiences. Here's a final touch that you really need to know. Include a short README in your logo package. It can just be a one-page PDF or text file, and what's inside is how to use the formats and where they can reach you. It tells the client, I've thought this through for you. It's clean, it's respectful, and incredibly rare. And I've had a few clients come back to me months later just because they remembered how easy and how helpful that delivery file was. It's a true trust builder that will fuel your partnership with clients in the future. If someone's brain has to decode a logo, it burns energy and time and it doesn't become memorable. And that's where trust can drop. And I get to why this is important and why it matters very soon. But in general, simpler logos, especially in industries like tech, wellness and finance, give off a more sense of trust and transparency. One good example of this is the recent rebrand from the UK bank Monzo. It's super minimal, it has soft geometry, pastel tones, and it just feels, well, safe. That's the power of simplicity when it's done with intent. So the trick here is to determine how much trust your brief requires, and then tailor the simplicity of your logo to that level of trust. So an astute logo designer realizes that brands live in captions, in landing pages, push notifications, and tweets. If you design the logo before you understand how the brand speaks, then you're designing almost blind. So instead of starting with raw geometry and shapes, for example, I might write down 5 words the brand would never ever say. That immediately sets boundaries and puts their brand identity into a clearer view for me. Then maybe I'll write down 5 words a brand would overuse online, and that starts revealing the tone of the brand. Is it sharp and direct? Is it playful? Is it technical? And then I'll write 1 sentence the brand would tweet to the audience. If the brand had to introduce itself in 140 characters, what would it actually sound like? What would it say to the world? And once you do that, the brand that sounds bold, you know it shouldn't have a timid logo. A brand that speaks calmly should not have aggressive shape psychology and angles. The voice creates the emotional temperature for you and the logo design project, and the logo needs to match that temperature. When designing a logo, people often gravitate to the pen tool for some reason. And sure, this is a valid method, but an easy and a clean way to design logos is to make use of preset shapes. As an example here, I'm working with a rectangle. But what logo do you think this is going to end up to be? But yeah, using shapes is not only quick, it allows the designer to ensure the logo is clean and precise. And there is sort of a golden rule or good tip to remember, which we will briefly talk about now. And yeah, of course, this is the Mitsubishi logo. So as a general rule, brands that are based around man-made products or a logo that wants to appear man-made needs to use straight-edged geometric shapes and lines as a good choice. For designs that want to appear natural and organic or depict living beings, curvy and smooth lines or shapes are a better option. Whenever you present a logo concept to a client, always include one stretch idea. Now, a stretch idea is one design that is maybe more radical, experimental, or abstract to your other concepts. On one project, I presented 2 different designs that were on brief, and then one design that was a bit radically different. And guess which one the client actually picked? Yes, it was a wild card. But this is where things get really clever. If they don't pick that stretch wild card idea, it makes your other ideas feel safer and more grounded. But here's the kicker. That wildcard design, that stretch design, still needs to be good quality and it still needs to adhere to your brief. So when you're designing a logo that contains typography, which, let's face it, is the vast majority of the time, you don't want to waste hours manually recrafting width, boldness, or slants on your typography. Instead, use a variable font. These let you drag one slider and explore a whole spectrum of looks without switching typefaces or rebuilding outlines. And you might be surprised, a slightly condensed version might flow better with a tall logo mark, or a low contrast weight might give the logo more polish and more finish. If you're working on a tight turnaround or iterating in real time with a client, this trick saves a ton of time and it shows high-level type control. Being able to control the font weight, the slant, and other features with a handy slider also lets you see many layouts in a super quick time. This is an absolutely essential part of my logo design process, and so I must mention in today's video. Using the Illustrator mirror option saves so much time it's actually ridiculous. It allows me to make sure my symmetrical designs are 100% precise and ultra clean. I originally designed this logo before Adobe added the mirror function to Illustrator, but now it's there, I always use it. Logo design has changed in some very real ways, and at the same time, the fundamentals still matter more than ever. We are living in a world where AI can actually generate 1,000 logos in the same time it takes you to sharpen a pencil. But somehow, that has not killed design. It has simply exposed the difference between making graphics and building designs that are targeted and on point. Most of the classic basics still apply, but they need a kind of 2026 upgrade in some cases. For example, simplicity still matters, but not the kind of simplicity that turns everything into the same 3 shapes. Soulless minimalism is not it, chief. Real simplicity today in logo design means stripping away noise while keeping the soul of the brand itself. The iron grip logo mark is simple, but you can still feel the weight, the control, the movement, the kind of psychology behind it. And that is the kind of simplicity we are aiming for when it comes to logo design. Versatility now means more than it works on a t-shirt. Your logo has to work in motion, in dark mode, inside UI components, on physical products. It's easy to envision the GRI shield here animating gently into place on a finance app splash screen, and then sitting as a tiny avatar in the corner of a website, and then also printed on a huge wall. That is versatility in 2026. If someone blurs your logo, shrinks it, or just glimpses at it while scrolling, can they still feel the basic form? Your brain needs to lock onto the gesture, the simplicity, the iconic nature of a logo before it notices any detail. It must work without color. So if you flatten your logo to a single color or to black and white, and the idea kind of just dies, then the color was probably carrying the entire concept. Color should enhance, not actually rescue a concept. Every one of the marks we have looked at here still works as a single color piece of geometry. And this is a big one. People are not sitting in a quiet gallery contemplating your logo. They are browsing past it thumb speed on their phone. Your logo marks have at most a second to register. So ask yourself, does this still read at a glance in a chaotic feed, or does it become just wallpaper in a blur? Those are the rules that quietly separate 2026 level work from everything else we've just looked at, like AI sludge. So here's something I want you to actually try, not just to listen to in the video. Open up 20 logos from the same industry that your client operates in. Put them all onto one artboard at the same size, and then cover up the brand names or just delete the brand name if you can. And then look at the logo marks on their own, and be honest with yourself for a second. How many of them could swap places and no one would actually notice? This is what I call the ownability gap. It's the space between something like this fits the category and then this belongs to one brand only. A lot of logos are designed to look quote unquote correct. They use the same shapes, the same type styles, the same visual language that feels safe for that industry. And there are, of course, a bunch of AI generated logos that fall into any niche as well, just furthering the problem. And that's exactly why they become interchangeable. They conform so well that they just disappear. And so when you're designing, your goal is to claim an area inside of a niche and to make a name or a presence around that area. Everyone shows logos on tote bags, signage mock-ups, and so forth. But what makes a difference is what you say alongside that. So don't say things like, here's the logo on some packaging. Say something like, here's how your logo symbol feels on packaging. It's calm, confident, and spacious. Look at the rebrand for Aesop, the high-end skincare brand. Their logo isn't flashy, it's a refined serif, minimal and grounded. But when you see it on, say, an amber glass bottle, paired with minimal labels and the creamy off-white background, it suddenly feels intellectual, understated, and almost philosophical in some way. That emotional tone is what you want to highlight when showing context to clients, and that's because clients need to be ushered around to your logic. And hopefully, guys, your logic is from a place of experience and expertise, especially if you watch this channel right here. So here's a handy artboard hack that very few designers know about. So I'm going to drag my logo off to the artboard for a moment and make sure it's still highlighted. Then come and grab the artboard tool here. If you hold down Shift, you'll notice the cursor icon changes, as you can see right here. And then if you click the logo, Illustrator will make a perfect artboard that touches the edges precisely on your design. And you can then select the original artboard and delete it by pressing backspace if you want to. And this will leave the new artboard as a dominant one on your project. Again, this does help if you want a precise artboard and want to export the design in this way. Now, many logo designers still go from sketch, then vector, then throw it on a mock-up and hope it does work the other end. But the thing is that logos don't live on the white artboards anymore. They live inside Instagram circles, app icons, website headers, dark mode, motion graphics, and on and on and on. So I actually start with the context first. Before I draw anything, I'll open up a few realistic mockups, so maybe like a social avatar, a mobile website header, and I just simply drop the brand name in there in plain text. But the mockups will be relevant to that niche sector that I'm actually designing in. Because the moment you see the real environment, your brain starts designing things differently. It starts approaching things in a different way. You stop over detailing and design choices kind of shift slightly. Then I will simply look at the niche category, and this is just to see any patterns that exist there. So what are all the competitors doing? Are they all using shields? Are they all using geometric sans serif for the word marks? Are they all minimal black and white logos? All of this tells me what the visual space is already crowded with, and I can then use this information to either pivot and differentiate, or comply and thus compete, depending on the brief and the project breakdown. Only then do I start sketching. And when I sketch, I'm not chasing like something cool. I'm trying to express one idea or one message or one direction. Speed, trust, precision, community, whatever the core is of the brand message and the research behind that. And if I cannot explain the idea in one sentence, the logo is probably just too complicated. So for example, the Veritas logo that we worked on, it would have to be something like, the Veritas baseball logo communicates disciplined, forward-driven performance, blending the idea of truth and integrity with athletic motion. Once I have something that works, I simplify it more so it feels more comfortable. But of course, this does depend on the client's feedback and just the project, individually speaking. But this shift alone, starting with the context instead of a blank page, completely changes the quality of what you produce the other end. So here is the mindset shift that saves careers in logo design. Your logo is not actually for your client. It is for the people your client wants to connect with, to sell things to, or just to inform. A logo is a piece of visual language for a specific tribe, a specific group. The Veritas baseball mark that we worked on does not need to draw on realistic baseballs to work. It feels like a swing, it feels like speed, it carries that slightly fierce edge that competitive sports do have. A kid or a parent looks at it and it just feels like our team. And this is what you're trying to design. Not to mention that Veritas literally means truth or correct. And that V is looking like a pretty cool abstract hit mark as well. So before any sketch, you need to know who that tribe is. How do they dress? What aesthetics are they already absorbing on social media? What brands do they already love? What are they trying to signal to each other? And shape psychology becomes a toolkit here for logo designers. It's really, really useful and one of my biggest uses when I'm working on a project. But if you feel like you have not quenched your thirst for logo design or graphic design education, just click one of those videos on screen to continue your learning journey. But until next time, guys, design your future today. Peace.